Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast, as always. And we are running into our favorite video of the day, Nate, our player props video. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page, as we've got a couple other videos up tonight as well, and a pretty decent sized Monday night slate. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings and player props available in your area, such as what we've got here. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, I'm starting today with a matchup between two of the last place teams in the Western Conference, but the Houston Rockets -2 at home against the Thunder, and they're on a little streak here, 2 wins in a row, awkwardly without Jalen Green, their prized number 2 overall pick. No knock on the kid, but perhaps just not necessarily ready for being the number 1A or 1B option on an NBA team. So, but without him, Kevin Porter Jr. has been freed to an extent. I mean, we have just one game of a sample size, but he's coming off a thigh injury, and he's looked good recently in this 2-game win streak, averaging 18.5 points, 10.5 assists, and 7 rebounds per game. His first game without Jalen Green, he goes for 23 and 12. On 44% field goal shooting. Now he goes up against a Thunder team that yields the most defensive rebounds per game, and is just generally allows a ton of production all over the floor. He averaged he went for 18, 10, and 3 rebounds against OKC, was a plus 25 in that win. It was the Rockets' first win over the first maybe 3 weeks of the season. So he's had some success in this matchup. He's averaging more points per game, 15.5, 4.8 rebounds, and 6.5 assists on much better shooting splits at home this season. So I like him to get over 27.5 points, rebounds, assists. And you're getting pretty crazy value for him to get 20 points in a win. A double-double in a win is about plus 600 at FanDuel. I mean, the game is a bit of a toss-up, but when you're talking that much value, I think KPJ is a triple-double threat if he's all over the floor the way he's been recently. So feel pretty good about putting a little action on that long shot as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking at this game for player props, for points, for all that stuff. Oklahoma City, they've been decent on defense as far as, a bad team goes, and allowing, the other team to shoot. They're actually in the top, I believe they're 11th overall in opponent field goal percentage, which is pretty good, but it's that opponent 3-point percentage that is not so good for them. As you mentioned, they're still giving up a ton of threes a game, in the bottom 10 in most of those defensive 3-point categories. So yeah, I'm looking at this game. You mentioned their rebounds that they give up a ton of in terms of Oklahoma City as well, which is why I'd also consider Christian Wood in this one to have another big game. But yeah, the last couple games for Houston especially has been no defense and a ton of offense, some really big combined scores as of late. And I would think that would continue here with a continued lack of defense for them as well, which should just lead to points, and KPJ being able to get what he wants tonight as well without Jalen Green in there, as you mentioned. So another guard I'm looking at here for the Utah Jazz. Donovan Mitchell has been down lately as a result. It was compared to what he normally does, but we know Donnie Mitchell can do on offense. But yeah, I think a little bit of that, of his recent, sort of low point totals, some low minutes per game as well as of late, has led to some value for him tonight against a Portland Trail Blazers team that is possibly the worst team on defense, but definitely on the road, the worst team on defense. They've got the dead last in defensive rating on the road this year, where they're also allowing their opponent to shoot basically 40% from 3, also good for bottom 5 there. And then, Donnie Mitchell is someone who can pull with the best of them. I think you will see a little bit of guard, a lot of guard play tonight, rather, from he and then Jordan Clarkson off the bench versus Dame and the guards that Portland brings into town, which is, how they're going to try to win too. And you're going to see, I think, a lot of Utah being able to do what they've done as of late, which is come back to that 3-point offense and really keeping the ball moving, finding the open guy, and really that resulting in Donovan Mitchell having the ball in his hands still a lot. You look at what Donnie Mitchell's been able to do versus Portland as of late. In his last 9 versus them, you see his splits at a pretty good 46, 30, 78, averaging about 23, 24 points a game in that time. I think he's able to do that again in his last 4 versus Portland. He scored 35 plus in 3 of those games, actually. And that's why, once again, coming back to sort of how he's been down a bit as of late, I do think you can still find some value, despite the fact that in his last 8, he's only had average under 19 points a game. As we talk about his usage rate, he's still shooting the ball with a usage rate of about over 30% in those games. So the shots are there for him. The opportunities are there for him. And I think we'll continue to see, like I said, a guard matchup tonight where it'll be sort of Donnie versus Dame tonight in a pretty fun one, but one that is still going to favor Utah heavily. And there should be a good amount of points either way.
Yeah, it's strange to see Mitchell's production down so much with the Jazz going over in 5 of their last 6. But he's getting just 18 points per game in his last 8. You mentioned his usage rate still over 30%, though. And in the home games, it's really been a case of some blowouts. His net rating is plus 32, and he's averaging under 30 minutes per game. So hopefully Portland keeps this one close enough for Donnie to get over 24.5 points. I mean, that's still pretty low for a player of his caliber. I know he hasn't been scoring lately, but that's where we get the value. And if you feel maybe he needs some help with the boards, 28.5 points at boards gives you a little leeway there. I'm going kind of off board with our third pick here. Definitely not a household name. Daniel Gafford, the Wizards center. With Thomas Bryant still out, Washington has been giving him pretty steady run. He just went for his first double-double of the season, 14, 10, and 3 over 27 minutes at Dallas. And now going to San Antonio, really a similar matchup. They both give up a ton of defensive rebounds. They both give up their second and third in paint points allowed at home. And San Antonio in particular allowing the 5th most field goals at the 5th highest 2-point percentage this season. Gafford averaging a solid 15 and 9.5 per 36 minutes in this season, and actually more in his career. So I think he'll continue to get run in this because the Spurs actually use a real center in Jakob Poeltl, right? So over 9.5 points is pretty low at even money. Over 6.5 rebounds is very low. And if you want to put them together, a double-double for Gafford, which he just recorded one in his last game, plus 650 straight up at DK. So I think that's worth a little sprinkle here. But I would stick with just the rebounds first and foremost for a Spurs team that I think plays at the fastest pace in the league at home.
At home. Yep, that is correct. Yeah, which is still surprising, but pretty impressive. And I'm glad we're bringing up Gafford just because, he's split time down low. But if you want to look at why Washington's so much better on defense this year, he's a huge part of it. And his minutes have been up, as you said, as of late with Thomas Bryant out as well. In his last 3 or so, averaging over 20 minutes a game. You mentioned he got those 27 against Dallas. And I think, like you said, it's a similar style of play that they'll bring tonight. Dallas does love to use Poeltl in the offense as much as possible. And I think you'll see Gafford plenty, involved in a lot of different plays and getting in the mix on those rebounds as well. So, I think this is a good opportunity for lots of shots and lots of boards for the big man to have an impact tonight. Just love mentioning him for the first time. Another guy I'm glad we get to mention again after he comes back from injury is Evan Mobley. In his first game back the other night was pretty good, had about 13 points. Just under 10 boards in that one, is looking for that defensive presence that he brings to Cleveland as well. But I'm looking at his points, rebounds, and assists. I think, the assist is worth throwing in there for him as well because he is a guy who has the ball in his hands around the wing and is looking to actually, attack the basket and then potentially make plays off of there. But it's also those rebounds that I really like for him, as Dallas is a very bad defensive rebounding team. Offensive rebounding team, really rebounding team in general, but they don't crash the offensive boards, give up the second most defensive rebounds per game, do the Mavs, which is really good for the young Cav here, as he's been, not quite a double machine, but definitely, since before he was injured, was putting up some really good numbers there as well, in terms of the rebounds that he puts up. And then on offense, as I mentioned, the fact that I like that to add the assist there, Colin Sexton, as we know, is down and out for the season. And that usage rate for Evan Mobley has actually gone up as they need somebody else who maybe not quite a ball handler, but somebody who can make plays, whether he's attacking the rim and scoring or dishing off as he gets there. And his usage rate has been about 22% since Sexton went down, something that I think will continue tonight as they look to get him back into an offense that struggles and really needs another playmaker in there, someone that can score on his own as Evan Mobley can. I think you'll continue to see him get the ball, and I think you'll continue to see him get plenty of boards as well down low. Feeling really, really good about 23.5 points, rebounds, and assists for him tonight against the Mavs.
Yeah, you have to like that he got 33 minutes in his first game, beating the timetable back from injury. Didn't look like he was too bothered by the elbow in terms of his shooting motion. So, yeah, hopefully he remains aggressive. Dallas, it plays a lot of low-scoring games, but they do give up a ton of rebounds and a ton of paint points. So I think this is the kind of game for Mobley to get his points and rebounds. I don't know about the assists, but 23.5 is still low for that combined total. And, yeah, 13.5 points I think is admittedly low because you're getting about minus 120 there because the man has been averaging 15.4 points per game on 51% shooting on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Just another a good example of us looking to be able to talk about someone like Evan Mobley, Daniel Gafford, get some more names out there for you guys because there's some value to be had on these player props, especially when you look at some guys being out on their team and them needing to step up is a lot of what we're looking for here as well. So make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. We'll be back tomorrow with another player props video, give you guys an opportunity to win a gift card as well with a prop that we'll throw out there for you. But until we see you next, happy betting.